Ella had always lived in a world where darkness reigned, but it was not a darkness that frightened her. From the moment she was born, she had never known the world through sight. Her parents had told her stories of what the world looked like, the colors, the faces, the beauty of nature. But for Ella, those descriptions had always been nothing more than distant dreams. She had learned to rely on her other senses: hearing, touch, and smell. It was through these senses that Ella understood the world. She had become an expert at navigating her surroundings. The rhythm of life to her was not about vision, but about feeling the beat of every sound, every texture, every person she encountered. Growing up, Ella had accepted her blindness. It wasn't something she saw as a flaw, nor was it something she longed to change. She had built her life around it. She had friends who understood her, a job that fulfilled her, and a peaceful existence in her small apartment that overlooked a quiet neighborhood. But still, there was a void, a longing she couldn't explain. Ella had always dreamed of love romantic, deep, genuine love, like the ones in the stories her parents told her. But as the years passed, Ella began to wonder if such a love was possible for her. Could someone love her without ever seeing her? Could love survive in a world that she couldn't fully visualize? In the same quiet neighborhood lived Aiden, a man whose life was, on the surface, quite different from Ella's. Aiden had eyes that saw the world in vivid color, but it was his heart, not his eyes, that made him feel the connection he had with Ella. He had noticed her several times at the local cafe, reading a book or sipping her coffee, her face soft with concentration. He had never worked up the courage to approach her, though he often felt a strange pull toward her. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. There was a calmness in her presence, a serenity that captivated him, though he had never spoken to her. And so he admired her from afar, never daring to make his feelings known. One fateful afternoon, when their worlds collided, neither Ella nor Aiden could have predicted what would come next. Aiden was already at the fair, wandering among the booths, lost in his thoughts. He had been walking for hours, and the bustling crowd was a welcome distraction from his hectic week. It was then that he spotted her Ella. She stood near the vintage book stall, her fingers tracing the spines of old books with an air of quiet concentration. There was something about her presence that made Aiden pause in his tracks. It wasn't her blindness that caught his attention. He had seen her around the neighborhood before, but something about the way she seemed to exist so fully in her own world. There was peace in her demeanor, a calm that drew him in. Without thinking, Aiden approached her, feeling a flutter of nervous excitement in his chest. "Excuse me," he said, his voice soft but warm. "Are you interested in books?" Ella turned toward the sound of his voice, immediately sensing his presence. She smiled, a gesture that spoke of warmth and openness. "Yes," she replied, her voice gentle. "Books are my escape." Aiden smiled back, and they began talking about their favorite authors, about the books they loved, and the way stories had the power to transport them to different worlds. Ella's voice was like music to Aiden's ears, soft, calm, yet filled with an unspoken strength. As they spoke, Aiden couldn't help but feel an undeniable connection. He found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't expected. As the conversation continued, Ella found herself feeling the same way. There was something about Aiden, his easy smile, the way he listened so intently to her words, that made her feel at ease. She couldn't explain it, but she felt comfortable with him in a way that she rarely did with others. She didn't need to see him to know that he was kind, that he cared. She could feel it in his words, in the way he spoke to her. When the conversation came to an end, Aiden was reluctant to leave, but he knew that he had to. He hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "Would you like to meet again?" he asked, his voice quieter now, almost unsure. Ella paused, sensing his nervousness. She smiled, the warmth in her voice unmistakable. "I'd like that," she said. Over the next few weeks, Aiden and Ella met often. They would meet at cafes for coffee, take walks through the park, or simply spend time in the quiet of a library. Each meeting brought them closer as they shared more of themselves with each other. Aiden admired the way Ella navigated the world with confidence and grace, and Ella found comfort in the way Aiden made her feel understood, not out of pity for her blindness, but because he genuinely appreciated her for who she was. There was a moment one afternoon, as they sat in a quiet cafe, when Aiden realized just how much Ella had come to mean to him. They were talking about their childhoods when he caught himself staring at her, captivated by the way she seemed so at peace with herself. She had a strength that Aiden hadn't seen in anyone before, a quiet resilience that came from living in a world where sight wasn't the guide. Ella, Aiden said, his voice soft, how do you know someone loves you? Ella smiled, though she couldn't see him. I think it's about more than what you see, she replied. It's about how someone makes you feel, how they care for you, how they listen. Love isn't just about vision. It's about trust and feeling safe in someone's presence. Aiden's heart raced at her words. He had never heard love described quite that way before, and it resonated with him deeply. He had always thought that love had to be something visible, something physical, but Ella had opened his eyes to the truth that love was so much more than that. Days turned into weeks, and Aiden's feelings for Ella only deepened. He knew, beyond a doubt, that he had fallen in love with her, but he was also afraid. He was afraid of how she might react. How could he confess his love for her without knowing how she truly felt? He had never been good at expressing his feelings, especially when it came to something as vulnerable as love. One evening, after they had shared a quiet dinner, Aiden finally decided that he couldn't hold back any longer. He took a deep breath and turned to Ella, his hands trembling slightly. Ella, he said, his voice quiet but filled with emotion. There's something I need to tell you. I've fallen in love with you. Ella was silent for a moment, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected him to say those words, but she had felt it coming. She had known, deep down, that Aiden cared for her more than just a friend, but hearing him say it aloud was different. It was real. I know this might be hard to understand, Aiden continued, his voice breaking slightly, but I love you. I love you for who you are, for the way you see the world, for your strength. I don't need you to see me. I just need you to feel me, to know me for who I am. Ella's breath caught in her throat. She didn't need sight to understand what Aiden was saying. She had always known that love wasn't about appearances. It was about connection. And in that moment, she realized that she had always felt something for Aiden, something deep and true. I love you too, Aiden, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Not because I can see you, but because of who you are, and because of the way you make me feel. After that moment, everything changed. Ella and Aiden were no longer just friends. They were partners, bound together by love that transcended sight. They built a relationship based on trust, respect, and emotional connection. Ella no longer doubted that love could exist without sight. Aiden no longer felt afraid of the unknown. Together, they created a life that was full of meaning and joy. In the quiet of their shared moments, Ella often reflected on the truth she had come to understand. Love was not about what you saw, but what you felt. And with Aiden, she had felt love in its purest form. Ella and Aiden walked through life together, hand in hand, their love deepening with each passing day. They had proven that love doesn't need to be seen to be real. It's in the touch of a hand, the sound of a voice, the unspoken understanding between two people. As they stood together, overlooking the city from a quiet hilltop, Ella smiled. Aiden looked at her, knowing that their love was everything they had ever wanted. It was real. It was theirs. And it was beyond sight. This script now offers a more detailed exploration of the emotional journey of Ella and Aiden's love story, including deeper character development and dialogue. I hope this script fits your vision for the Blind Love Tales channel. Let me know if you need further adjustments or additions.